Third grade's tough for a lot of reasons.
It is. It's a change for kids, and I think at the beginning of the semester they will tell you back.
You like bring me back to the fifth graders.
But one of, it said 2 viewers waiting. One of them might have been me starting. So,
Okay, please. Okay, I like it. Do you get a
got a
fifth
couple
grade back?
people on.
We have one right
You have one. Okay, at least there's one on the table.
You want fourth grade? Right. I don't like the fourth grade. You know all about it. I think girl, there's something special about it. Oh, it's on.
It's live now.
Oh.
We just started.
I think it's a sticker. I think so. Don't quote me on that. I think it's a sticker, right? Yeah. I don't want to do it wrong.
Alrighty, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Foundational Skills Adoption Presentations. We are going to get started on time. I am going to say, though, we do have Domino's Pizza in the back, and we're not just going to like give you like a meal time. So just kind of help yourself, quietly go back to that table and grab you a couple slices or two. And our schedule tonight, we have three vendors tonight. We have Amplify, we have HMH, which interreading, and then we will close with Benchmark Advance. I'm Tanya Ross, the ELA curriculum coordinator for the district. I'm so glad you all came out tonight. Amplify will start us off. If you haven't already, we sent the scoring link out this afternoon, so please get the scoring link ready so that you can tally up your scores and we can transition into the next presenter right after Amplify. We didn't really figure in any break time, so once you do a scoring on the in Google Forms, it automatically advances you to click it again for the next presenter. We also like to thank Dr. Ramsdale, Joel Ramsdale, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction, for being with us tonight. CNI team, Dr. Mott, and Dr. Hunter in the back. One of our administrative assistants, Ms. Hutt, is with us tonight. You see the Moline crew back there? Thank you for joining us. Name is slipping. We have Houghton represented on tonight. We have one of our ELL guests with us tonight. And without further ado, we're going to turn the presentation over to Kat from Amplify. Thank you all.
I'm awful on a mic, so I apologize. I am a teacher at heart, so on a mic is scary. But we're going to try it so that people over there on the TV, YouTube, can hear me. So, hi, good afternoon, happy Thursday. My name is Kat Johnson. I'm a literacy product specialist here at Amplify. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, so you can tell when I stepped off that airplane, it's a little cold for me, but we're warming up. I'm going to tell you all about Amplify CKLA. Amplify CKLA just stands for Core Knowledge Language Arts. That's our K-5, well actually pre-K to 5 program, but I'm going to focus in on K-5 today. We have samples up here in the front, so feel free later on after the presentation to check these out. There's some really good pieces of work up here. So I want to start off with why CKLA for you all specifically. Number one is this, which is it's a state-approved curriculum program, right? At least right there. Has to be state-approved. We have that coverage. But number two, which is also really important for your district, is that it aligns to the Missouri standards, which is something that we really need, right? One really cool piece is we give you this standard alignment document, and when you find a standard, you actually can click on a link, and it'll bring you right to that page in the program, so you know exactly what part of the curriculum it's in and what standard that correlates with. There's some other pieces of standard correlation that I'll talk about a little bit later, but this is one of those pieces that I think will help you, definitely when it comes to teaching and planning. What we also want to make sure is that on your school improvement plan, there's a lot of focus on PLC meetings, so I'm guessing you do a lot of digging into units, into lessons, standards, things like that. So a couple things that I pulled out just so that you know. We have a classroom observation look for, so if you're an admin leadership role and you're going into classrooms, we give you support on that, but also documents that can support the walkthroughs inside of the class that are using CKLA. You'll also see that we have a whole PD library, so I saw something about like supporting both certified and non-certified teachers. We have PD that happens before and as you implement, but also know that as teachers go in and they need extra assistance or they have questions, we also have a whole PD library for them as well. And then the last thing down here is just unpacking standards and units and things like that. We give you a framework to do that with your classroom or with your teachers, pardon me, inside of PLC meetings, and we can support you in that way. So just know that's just something I noticed. We have a lot of those supports there. Also, multicultural, diverse text and topics, super important. Some of the topics that they're going to get into, they actually get in first grade where they go into a Ghanaian trickster tale and they're going to compare and contrast these different tales, trickster tales. Mary Bethune, we actually have a Bethune building in APS, so I always love to pull that one out, talk to kids about that because that's something that's really kind of near and dear to our hearts in Atlanta, but then also should be across the world. You see the first woman on the bottom right who was the first Hispanic woman that entered space. They can learn about her. Also, Madam C.J. Walker in 4th grade, they learn all about her and kind of her innovations in society and how you can compare and contrast that with some others that we learn about too. So, a lot of different texts there. I'm going to go into a couple today, but I encourage you guys to open up the books and look through. If you want a text list as well, let me know. I can give you that too, or Margot can give you that. So this is where we start. This is the whole literacy ecosystem at Amplify. It's a lot. We're going to focus right now on the top right, which is just CKLA, so a strong Tier 1 program. I'm going to talk about what this looks like. Specifically, I want to kind of point this out for my ELL friend. We also have something called Language Studio, which would benefit your students, your ML, EL students, on pulling out. This is separate, but know that it goes hand in hand with the program and to support those students. Really can support all students, but great for you. And there's some pieces inside the curriculum too that I'll point out. Speaking of some research behind the why, the way we do it. This is Dr. Hollis Scarborough's reading rope. We start here because this is what our program is built around. So we have a lot of research embedded in CKLA and a lot of research around, so things like efficacy studies. With this, when we think about it, we want to make sure that we have two-strand approach to teaching reading. So we have a bottom strand, which is word recognition, phonics decoding, encoding, you'll see decodable readers pushed in here, writing. And then we also have a language comprehension strand, which is called a knowledge strand. What we see here is students need to have both in order to read. You can have an excellent decoder, but that can't make meaning of what they're reading because they don't have the background knowledge. Or you can have someone that has a ton of background knowledge, but they don't have the skills to decode. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on both, but pulling those apart. This is built out for 165 days as well, so usually you have a little bit of wiggle room. Usually most school districts are like 175, although snow days happen, so you might be down a few days. But we want to make sure that we can help you, and in those days, assessments, pausing point days as well are included in that instruction. Now, as we get into 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, these strands become integrated. So what we're reading about is what we're writing about. We're making sure that we're embedding grammar, morphology as well. You'll also see that we have this additional component called skills. This is available for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. If you see some skill gaps that I'm sure you see in your classrooms, this will specifically support those kids, and it keeps really a lot of structure within that skills department as they get into 3rd, 4th, and 5th, when we're really seeing more of those foundational skills in the lower grades. So today I'm actually going to start first in the knowledge strand, just kind of give you a quick overview. I'll go into what skills looks like in K2, and then 3, 4, and 5, and then I'll show you some kind of fun pieces that we have within our program. So thinking of the knowledge strand and the topics, we want to make sure that we're exposing our students to lots of different topics throughout the year because we want to build that treasure chest of knowledge, not just for background knowledge purposes, but also vocabulary. So you'll see all of them are connected to science, history, and literature, but also connected to each other. So things like poetry down in 2nd connects to poetry up in 5th. You'll see science connections or geography as well, like I have circled here. There's a geography unit in 1st grade that connects to then oceans up in 5th grade. What you'll also see is that each grade level, K1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, all have a choice unit. These are this or that units that your district decides on what you want to focus on. Let's say we want more of a science focused, okay, we choose that for this grade. So like 3rd grade is an example, human body or light and sound. Maybe light and sound aligns to Missouri standards better, push that way. You totally get that choice of this or that. You'll also see that one of the units in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, is going to be a novel-focused unit. So you have a this or that choice in these novels. Couple, just to point out a few of my personal favorites, 5th grade, because I know I have a couple of 5th grade friends in the back. Science of Breakable Things is a really good book if you haven't read it, but also supports both science skills, when we're talking about making sure we're building those in, and literacy skills at the same time. No matter what you choose, narrative and standard is always covered, and then the writing at the end is also going to be the same. Now we end every grade level with research. So we end the year to kind of celebrate reading and writing by allowing our students to dive into different types of text, but then also collect research and then produce some type of writing. These are some 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade examples, but these also come with an authentic text set that you'll have in your classroom to help support this research. This is kindergarten. 3rd grade is probably one of my favorites just because it's about jazz and you're able to kind of bring jazz music into the classroom. And then 5th grade as well, which is global architecture. One of my other favorites is 2nd grade, which they go into learning about different aviators, and they actually learn about primary and secondary sources as well, in the most foundational level, to help build that and as they get into upper grades. So what does this look like in K2 specifically in that knowledge strand? We want to make sure that we have teacher guides, which are going to see all of these materials here, but you see teacher guides and those research units, presentation screens. You're also going to see some assessments aligned with this. But when you actually start off each lesson, you're reading aloud to your students, but you're going to introduce this by asking questions. So you start with questions, you ask questions while you're reading, and then of course, asking questions after. This is, I won't tell you, I'll actually see if anyone has any ideas. What do you think they're reading or they're hearing in this read aloud? If you just see a bear here. Good. No, this is kindergarten. No, but that's a good guess. So it tricked you. What it actually is going to be, anybody? Goldilocks and the Three Bears? So the reason why we're showing a picture of a real bear is so that students are recognizing Goldilocks and Three Bears is fiction. These bears here are real. So you know that they're not taking these human, well, they are taking these human-like characteristics. Now you're not saying that to a kindergartner, but they're learning about personification as they go across. So you start off with asking questions, and then when you're actually getting into the read aloud, you're using vocabulary throughout, and you're allowing these students to experience these words because they're getting it through a read aloud. We tier all of your vocab for you from tier 3 to tier 1, multiple meaning sayings and phrases as well, which is really good for our MLEL students, also all students. When you're in the read aloud, you are showcasing the image to your students, and then we are reading aloud to them. All of that text is actually found in that teacher guide, so that you all don't have to go to 1,000 different places. It's right here, you open it up, you're reading aloud, but they're seeing the images to make those connections. You are asking them a ton of questions as you read aloud, all focused back to that standard, and then you'll also see that when you're finishing that read aloud, you get into more questions, but these questions here are varying levels, and we actually call that out for you all. What you'll see here as well, we're asking questions about literary elements because that's our focus for this particular one. But we also call out, okay, how do the bears in this story act like people instead of real bears? And then you'll see that from here, we move into something called word work, which is a deeper dive in a vocabulary word that they heard during the read aloud. So it's that repeat and expose multiple exposures of words. They're also going to model some sentences here, but word work, no matter what grade level, is always a word that they've either read in the text or they've heard in the read aloud. It's not their first time seeing it, or the last. Then we get into application, where in this case they're filling out a graphic organizer, they're drawing pictures here as kindergartners of the characters, the setting, and the plot. And then there are teacher presentation screens or lesson slides that you can pop up on something like this, and then the students can come up and model, or you can model for them. So there's everything that you see print is also available digital and vice versa, so that you can leverage that. Okay, getting into skills now. And I'm sorry, this is so much information because it is K5 and I'm like word vomiting at you all, but I promise it's a lot of good information. If you have questions, let us know too. So K2, word recognition strand. What does the skills strand look like? First of all, materials, same idea. Teacher guides, activity books. You're also going to see that these code posters help you introduce these skills to students. So if you're focusing and you're introducing that sound, you use these spelling cards to add it into the code poster. Colors changes, red for consonant because your breath stops, green for vowels, your breath is continuous. Our controlled are blue, there's no reason, but they're blue, but kids will recognize that. And then right in the middle, there's something called a power bar. That power bar is telling us how common a sound spelling is. So larger the power bar, more common, smaller the power bar, least common, which you'll see right here as we introduce more sounds going into second grade. So get more complex with it. You're also going to see that we have a lot of chaining practice or orthographic mapping embedded, both kinesthetic, but also using this chaining folders, which is with our fingers in kindergarten. You'll see a whole chaining folder. They're able to manipulate those letter tiles around, also teaches directionality. You also have these large letter cards, which happen in K and 1. And this is a little classroom of kindergartners that are doing this particular magic E activity. So they've spelt the word man, and then the students or the teacher's gonna go alakazam. Kid runs up front and changes the word from man into main. This happens throughout K and 1. Second grade turns into pop-out chaining. So same idea, just smaller cards. But we wanna make sure that all of our students and all of the learning styles are focused in each lesson or throughout those lessons and throughout those units. Now when you actually open up a teacher guide, no matter what grade level, I'm just showing you skills right now, we are giving you the information to help you all plan, or the teachers plan that are out there listening. Number 1, we give you the primary focus of the lesson. These are the goals aligned to the standard. Every single lesson, every single day. What we also are going to do for you is give you a formative assessment, a way to check for understanding every lesson, every day. Now what you'll see on the right side here, this is called a lesson at a glance. This is telling us what are we doing today, suggested grouping, time, and materials that I will need for that lesson. So for your teachers, they can open this up, or if you're in PLC meetings planning for the next week or the weeks after, you can pull this information out, find your materials quickly, find the procedure, and see how many minutes, which each skills lesson is going to be 60 minutes long, but how it's broken up. Now when you actually introduce sound spellings to students, we are doing this through something called a sound first approach. So we want to make sure that students are hearing the sound before they see that sound. And that starts way early on in kindergarten, where we actually start off with phonological awareness. So understanding there's a beginning and end of a sound, doing this through hand claps and stomps. They play this game here, which is a duck, duck, goose game. They go sunshine, 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 run around, bringing again that kinesthetic movement into the classroom. From there, we move into phonemic awareness. So understanding, yes, there's sounds, but those sounds have meanings, and we see phonemes there. We tap these out on our fingers, on our arms. We are doing this just based on fine motor skill necessity. So for our young kids, on our arms, for our older kids, on our fingers. Now from there, we know how to connect these into basic code so that kids can bring this all together and able to blend their sounds into code. It's a little kindergartner. She's actually from Cicero, which isn't that close, but in Illinois, outside Chicago. But she's able to do this quicker because we go slow to go fast. Because we start here, the most foundational level, and then build up. Now from there, just if there are any kindergarten teachers listening or you support kindergarten, they teach 50 code spellings by the end of the year. Now, as we go into first and second grade, you are going to review those 50 from the year before, because summer side is bound to happen. It always happens. So we want to support them. But as they finish up second grade, you'll actually teach 150 sound spellings. Now there's 26 letters, there's 44 sounds, but within those 44 sounds, there are 150 ways to spell them. So we want to make sure we're doing this explicitly, but also systematically. So starting with the least ambiguous and building in complexity. From there into third, fourth, and fifth, we are getting into morphology. So this is kind of that connection back into the upper grades. Now you are going to see some students still have gaps here, and that's where that third, fourth, and fifth grade skill comes in to help start closing those gaps, if that's through intervention or support or small group thing like that. Now what you're also going to see is when we're doing that sound first approach, we want to help you all support that sound development, and so we actually created these videos here, which you can use if you want.
Tiger. Tiger.
So there's one for every single sound. Your kids have access to them, you have access to them, use them as you need. There's also music videos, which I won't show you today, but if you want to check them out after. They're like alliteration songs. So they're fun, get kids engaged, but also good for like a brain break or lining up or things like that. Now, after we introduce that sound and map those to letters, we get into some letter formation, and then we're also going to get into some deliberate practice. So they'll see inside of their activity books, letter formation practice, sentence practice, grammar practice, comprehension, all of those inside of your activity book, so that you guys all don't have to print anything, it's all in there. From there, we want kids reading. So that code we taught them is now applied into decodable readers. Every student in the classroom will have a decodable text in front of them that follows the scope and sequence that they are learning inside of the classroom. So they're getting that information, they're applying it in text, and then they're going to write about it, because the ultimate goal is comprehension. So they're writing about what they're reading, both informally and formally. Now, what we also are going to see inside of these decodable readers, that they're 100% decodable. So like I said, follows the scope and sequence, but everything has been previously taught. Sound spellings, tricky words, even grammar skills. If they have not taught dialogue, you will not see dialogue in the text. So really intentional with that. They're also set up like chapter books as well, so kids kind of get that feel of like, I'm reading a chapter book, and that builds confidence as well in our students. Inside of these, we have scaffolds built out. So for this particular sound, which is the sound, we have bolded that to let students know that's what we're focusing on. It's also their first exposure to 2-syllable words, so we're dividing those syllables up to help support. It's a scaffold, it's going to disappear as they get into the end of first and into second. And then there's one here that's underlined. Any idea what that could be? I think like tricky word, heart word, you might have heard, red word, those are kind of different terms. But it's just something that's a little bit tricky for those students at that moment. T's making its normal sound, so that's why that part's not underlined, but the rest of it is. Really supporting our students. Again, scaffold's going to disappear as we go into second and into third, fourth, and fifth. We want students writing informally and formally, and so they're filling this out as it relates to what they're reading about. So they're getting comprehension even though we're focusing on the decoding piece. Now what you're also going to see is we're asking questions about grammar, because even grammar is embedded into what we're reading. You have grammar lessons, let's apply it in text. You're also going to see, and this is probably great for third, fourth, fifth, and beyond, we ask them to cite text evidence starting in first grade. Now we're not asking them to cite it into writing. We want the most foundational level of citing it is, okay, that's a great answer, but where did you find that? And so if we keep that up across first into second, really will impact third, fourth, and fifth graders, and then moving on to middle school and high school. What you're also going to see is that we're genre writing in here. Both actually, the knowledge train and the skills train have genre writing. But what you'll see in this particular one, or in this unit, they're writing an informational text all about a critter of their choosing. So they're going through the planning process, publishing that, and then this is just some student writing that they get to share. One wrote about sharks and one wrote about puffins. So they're using that text to support. This, to me, was major, coming from an old AP. I taught in Atlanta Public Schools, first and second grade, and I won't name the product that we used, but we used something where it's like, pretend your kids went to Disney World. And I'm like, not a single one of my kids has ever been to Disney World. How are they supposed to write about that? When we give them something to write about, kids can write. And that's what we do across every single unit and every single lesson. We want to make sure that they get information that they in turn can write about. So I love that. So that's kind of K2 in a nutshell. Now where does this go into third, fourth, and fifth? How does it come together? I'm going to show you a specific lesson in here, but I want to again start off with some of those materials. Just like you saw before, you see teacher guides, you see activity books. You actually have cursive available as well as low as second grade if you want to use that, if that's a need for the district. You'll see poets journals because you have a poetry unit in both third, fourth, and fifth. And then you're also going to see those full-length novels in addition to some digital multimedia supports. So in this particular unit that I'm showing you, this is American Revolution, but this particular lesson, lesson 9, is all about a closed read. So they've read this chapter before, but now we're digging deeper into it and guiding questions throughout that really do support that standard. This specifically is done in small group, so we actually have different strategies built in. If it's whole group or small group or partner or independent, but your teachers are teachers in the classroom. They can also choose what they need to do that's best for those kids. It's the day before break. Maybe small group's not the best option. You can change it. Totally up to you. We just give you a good suggestion. All of these texts as well across Amplify, like the one you just saw, can be read aloud to students as well that need that. For ML/EL students, maybe your tier 3 students, they have that ability, and it's a real voice reading aloud to them. So we want to make sure in this close read they're listening or they're reading this text, and we're asking them deliberate questions that relate back to the standard. Number 1, we're asking about a topic sentence. Why are we asking about a topic sentence? Because they're going to have to write a topic sentence, right? So we want to make sure that here, can you identify one so that later you can write about one. We also are asking them to verbally or orally use text evidence when they're answering a question. Why is that important? Because they're going to have to use that in their writing. But if we start orally first and then build it into writing, it's a better flow. It helps our students. And then I just like to show this one because this is personification, and we just quickly hit on personification down in K, so it's cool to see that this actually evolved up into 4th grade and shows those connections across grade levels. Now we also want to make sure that they also get word work, that vocabulary work. This is a word they've read now. Now we're discussing the meaning, sayings and phrases, maybe even getting into part of speech, things like that, and while we're discussing it. And so this comes straight from that text or that reading for that day. And so we want to make sure that they're getting into response to reading, citing those text evidence, just like you saw in 1st grade. You're also going to see that we're building timelines or sequencing events. We do debates. One of the best 3rd grade lessons they do a debate about Julius Caesar, so they're actually building that out. And what we want to make sure is that students are then moving when we're getting into this information, into this text, but also looping in language morphology and grammar skills. So grammar here, all embedded into your lessons, but what you're going to see here is that we want to make sure that it's connected back to the topic. So we can see the troops, Thomas Jefferson, and that actually loops us right into morphology as well, where we're learning about im and in because it comes straight from the text. Impossible, independence. And then what else do we need? We need writing. And so in this particular unit, we are writing a 5-paragraph essay, a cause and effect essay actually, but we're not just going to give them that to start with, we want to take them through it. So they see introducing cause and effect here, they practice transition words, and then we plan that all out by starting with planning paragraph 1, getting into sharing that out, peer review, peer feedback, and then peer revising and publishing. You're also going to see that assessments are embedded. So we have assessments across all grade levels, both formative, if that's checks for understanding, or also those formative assessments right at the bottom of that first page of a lesson. Or you're also going to see summative assessments that come at the end of a lesson, or end of a unit, pardon me. This could be a cold read, which you'll see in both K2 and 3-5, but we're also asking questions like text analysis, vocabulary, and then embedding writing and grammar into that as well. You're also going to see that we support all of our learners through Language Studio for our ML/EL students. We also have embedded differentiation supports that are ways to scaffold. We have embedded ML/EL supports as well across every piece of a lesson, across all grade levels. And you're going to see that grouping recommendation as well, that small group independent partner. You're also going to make sure that you have reteaching days, remediation days, pausing point days built into the scope and sequence. Additional supports at the end of every skills lesson as well. And on top of all of that, a lot of different tiered support through the intervention toolkit, which is kind of outside of core instruction, but you all have access to that. That 3-5 supplement of skills for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers. You'll see that embedded and can use that as needed to close those gaps. Audio support, like I mentioned, for every student. Additional practice, which are some assignable practice games. And then you're going to see some digital support. Now, with digital, 2 things I want to focus on. Number 1 are going to be assessments, and number 2, you're going to see digital reporting for teachers. So you'll also see these presentation screens, which you'll find online. And so every single thing is laid out for you, from the standard to the teacher presentation screens. And under those teacher presentation screens, you can actually use to showcase to your students to help teach. Now, what you're also going to see is assessment and data reporting. And I'm going to play this video because it does a really good job showing it all.
We're excited to introduce Amplify CKLA's new digital assessment and data reporting tool designed to help you track your students' progress toward mastery. With auto-scored digital assessments, you'll receive immediate data insights. Our standards-based reporting comes with interactive dashboards that provide detailed views of both individual and group performance. You can easily drill down into each assessed standard to see class
So what you'll see through there is that you can see it based on standard and performance, and you can actually click on each individual standard and pull that back to where it's taught to help make that connection. Really, really good for PLC time. The last thing I have for you is how do you teach this, right? It's new, it's fresh. PD is so important if it's the PD library, or implementation beforehand, which is our launch sessions, but also as you implement through strengthening and coaching sessions. And then the very last thing I have, so that you guys can go ahead and scan this so that you have some material. I hate 1,000 papers in front of me, so we created a QR code. Feel free to scan this QR code. Has different materials, has login information as well, and then contact information for Marco so that you guys can let us know if you have any questions. I know I'm right on time because 30 minutes is woo, 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 on fire for this Thursday night presentation. But any questions, any thoughts before I close it up and hand the mic off to my partner over here? Go ahead.
Did I hear you correctly in that these are available like as audiobooks for the students?
Sure are. Yep, every Tacoma Reader and Reader in 3, 4, and 5 is available as an audio piece that can be accessed at home or in the classroom, and it's a real voice because we want to teach fluency. Yep.
Can you tell us more about the opportunities for fluency practice?
Yeah, so fluency starts off with giving a good scope and sequence for phonics. So we start there, really strong, going slow to go fast when it looks at phonological awareness. They're repeating reading a lot as well within here to keep practicing some of that decoding pieces. You're going to see that we have a lot of warm-ups as well that teach chaining practice, which builds fluency in decoding and blending. And then even in 3, 4, and 5, we have constant practice within the lessons of reading, practicing within the teacher, but then also assessing fluency so you can see exactly where your students are.
Okay, I gave the lesson. I gave one of the lessons through the website that you gave in with my third grade class. So one of the things that I did find out that I like is that it flowed. It flowed from the beginning to the end, from the decoding all the way down. And this was third grade,
Yeah.
so you still had decoding in third grade. And it flowed all the way down into the language part. And what I really liked about it is that the kids were so involved in it that they actually did not realize that we had been working from like 8 o'clock until 11:30.
That's great.
So that was great. That it all flowed, and it all flowed in. It even caught the attention of the lower learners.
Yeah, that is awesome, and I love that you said that too, because it's comprehensive. You don't have to now find something for writing and find something for this. It's just all connected. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad you got to try it. Okay, I'm gonna hand this back. I know you want a mic, don't you?
She's like, you don't need it.
All right, so we want to thank Pat and Margot Amplify for coming tonight and providing us with what Amplify offers for the CKLA series. Anybody, last minute, last chance. We do have a few minutes before the next session starts. You give your opportunity to go ahead and go through the materials, and they're here for a few more minutes. Now, obviously, you know, they have to vacate the premises when the next company comes. But feel free to go ahead and go through the products. We will have an extension in terms of how long you have to fill out the survey. Being that we provided this digitally, as well as it being streamed tonight, we will make sure that everyone has ample time to go through the materials. We thank Dr. Patton, our superintendent, for being with us tonight. And also, we forgot to thank those who are with us streaming live. Thank you for joining us tonight. All right, if that will be all, let's give Amplify a hand for their presentation.
Yeah. Do you want to say that? Just so that you guys know, it does integrate with Clever and Google or whatever you use. That's something that our tech team works with your tech team to do. Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're gonna need this for us. Sweet, put a little salty and a little Okay, there you go. See, I'm doing. I was like, I feel like the rookie where they sent maybe like a flight attendant.
first grade. And they just put their with the PDF and that's a big book. Thank you so much. Did you want to say more? I was gonna say you're smart.
No, I was first grade, but now I'm reading special. I was first grade. Yes.
K2 is 120 each total, 60 minutes each grammar, like each block. Yeah, so basically what I always say for that is you could do 60 minutes of skills in the morning, 60 minutes of they don't have to be taught back-to-back sheets. Nope, that's just one teacher guide for third grade. There'll be one, so there's nine skills. There's going to be first grade 7. There's 10, 7, and 6. And then the actual knowledge that is on the other side, there's 10. It's we try to do it every 3 to 4 weeks. That's what research shows is best.
Well, thank you I appreciate that comment. I appreciate you turning it out. That's what it's all, that's what it's all about. Maybe we need to do
It's a good, you should check it out. When you get access, check it out. It's a good unit. And it's just fun to put music on. It's at the end of the year, so it's time to celebrate. Yeah. It does. And it's also like, it's great to have online, but it's better to have it when it's in your hands.
Well, come on.
To go to waste.
I appreciate it.
Come on in there. If you want, then you can put questions there, and it'll alert me, and then I can come in and answer that. If that benefits
I'm going there now myself.
She was a first grade teacher. She is.
Fifth grade? You're welcome. What about you? What do you teach?
She's the leader.
You teach the teachers.
She wants third. Third would be my preference. Thank you. Yeah. You know Melissa. Yeah. At the end.
We still have another 5 minutes.
Another third. Thank you. There you go.
Are you okay setting up?
What else do we have?
Yes.
Kindergarten here.
Who told you that? Jolly Ranch. You're welcome.
I call it
Kindergarten? Okay. Yeah, there's no Jolly Ranchers. Nobody wants Jolly Ranchers. You don't need one? Do you want a bag of snacks? Do you want some candy? I'll bring you a bag of snacks. Yep, grade level if you want. There you go. You're welcome. Amber, I'm still up fourth and first.
I can vouch for 445 construction.
That's our hands at the side.
No, it is not. It is not. Mine, it's not.
I have to see you She's like, great. She's second.
Right? You're like, I do this every day.
Are you second? What are you going to get? You came up. I do.
I'm special.
Okay, so you go with 2. I'm gonna get you 4th. What grade level? Kindergarten and? I'm sorry. 4th, 5th, K. Oh, you already have one? You're in 5th grade? You were 5th? Yes. Okay, there you go. There's snacks in that bag.
You did? That's what you have?
Sorry.
Good job.
2nd grade? Okay. Do you want another one different? Okay. You're going second? Okay. I just pulled it out. Okay.
Oh, definitely.
I do, but you can have it. No, it's okay. Jackie has her sister. I don't have a secret. You got her for No. We're trading over here. Barter system. What you got? This is I want to purple. You can have plain.
That's just a gift from my heart.
She doesn't even want any of this candy while she's over here.
The superintendent needs M&M's.
She likes plain or plain or peanut.
Peanut only.
Oh, peanut only. That's what I wanted.
The rest, why bother?
Right, exactly. Peanut only.
Or the peanut butter.
I don't want Milky Way. The peanuts are too plain. Yes. I have to leave them. We have some here.
Oh, yeah, you're on there. Let me zoom in.
Because I left you first grade over there. Do you want to see kindergarten?
I told you, you spread it to the table.
Kim's got 4. You want 3?
Okay, just pick up your voice. Oh, I see what you're saying. One upper grade.
One upper grade.
Give me another upper grade. You gave me.
Kim's got 4.
I always give.
Kim has 4. Here's the best. I gave you first. Is that good? You want kindergarten? Absolutely. Okay. No, I gave them one. I got first.
What'd you get?
She got 4.
Okay, we're ready. We're ready. We're ready.
Is that what she said? I don't know.
Almost.
Look at her. Yeah, big one. That's not bad. We're looking at the sticker.
My sticker's better.
She got the really good sticker.
You got the
All right, so we're going to get started with our second vendor tonight. We have with us Houghton, Mifflin, and Harcourt. We know them as H&A's, and it's the inter-reading product. So we have Kristen, who is doing the presentation tonight. Shelby is our district consultant. What title might have
account
changed?
executive.
I know it changed, but we've been working together for years, and then we have Stephanie there in the back. So we're going to turn it over to H&H.
All right, hi everyone. We are just going to jump into it. I know Shelby has passed out some swag bags to you, and some of you are already digging in. That's fine. Please look through it, find what is important to you, because I've sat in your seat, and I know you have an idea of what you're looking for. So we're just going to go ahead and jump into things, and I'm going to frame our conversation tonight around 3 things that are priorities with teachers. The first is ongoing instructional support. I'm going to be showing you a lot of things and explaining some things to you that are in your bag and pointing you to places within the teacher's guide tonight. But by the end of our 30 minutes, you might be thinking, well, okay, how do we balance all this great stuff that I'm going to show you? And that comes from us being able to support you. We're providing you with a lot of great resources because we want to support your students, of course, but you are an integral part of that. So what do we have for you? The second thing I'll be talking about, of course, are the high-quality instructional materials that are available for all students within Into Reading. And third is going to be the seamless differentiation. So everything I talk about today or tonight is part of the Into Reading program. And a lot of things are even included in your teacher's guide and in your bag that Shelby provided for you. So I encourage you to go ahead and pull out the teacher's guide now, because I am going to be directing you to some places within that. So let's start off with the most important people who are in the room today, right now, you, the teachers, and how HMH will support you in an implementation. So it starts with, of course, the implementation guide. So this comes with the program on Ed, and what you would see are suggestions for pacing. A lot of times teachers are like, well, I've only got 90 minutes, I've got 120 minutes, I've got 150 minutes. How do you recommend that I fit these things in? So we provide you with that pacing guidance. It's not the law, there are no Into Reading police, but a lot of times teachers just want to know, where can I start? So the pacing guide included with the implementation guide is one thing there to help. Another question that teachers often ask is, what are the must-dos? What are the can-dos? Especially when you are first implementing a program. So we set you up for success right away by giving you kind of a checklist. Teachers, we appreciate checklists, right? So what can I start with maybe in the first module? And what could I add? What layers could I add in the second module, in the third module, as I get more comfortable and as my students get more comfortable with the routines as well. And then finally, a digital presentation tool built for every single lesson that I'm going to be talking about. So this is a quick little video that's running through an example of a first grade foundational skills presentation. These are already built for every single lesson. You hear a shh because she's demonstrating the sound there. So what you're seeing here would be a model of what a teacher would be going through very quickly through a foundational skills lesson at the first grade level, where we're introducing the sound shh. And we're going to do some blending activities here, so the teacher would be controlling all of this and leading their students. Now they're going to try it out. They're going to do some handwriting practice here that is connected to what they're doing in foundational skills. So it's going through the steps of the foundational skills lesson that you're going to see here in just a minute. But the point of this is knowing that this is already created for you. You do not have to make anything. Not just for foundational skills, it's going to be for your reading and vocabulary lessons and your writing and grammar lessons as well. So I'll refer back to some of these presentations throughout our conversation tonight, but this is a huge time saver for teachers. Already done for you, lesson presentations. It also is a nice way to kind of keep us on track when we're in the moment of teaching with our students, keep us going in the lesson. So you can see how it's progressing all the way to the decodables here. So we're decoding with our first grade students, leading them in this digital presentation, and then wrapping up with some learning goals. All right, so now we're going to dig into some of those great materials that you have in your bag. Pull out that teacher's edition if you haven't yet. And let's think about kind of a day in the life. What do we do as teachers during our literacy block? Well, believe it or not, we do all of these things during our literacy block. We teach foundational skills. We teach reading and vocabulary, and we teach writing and grammar. So Into Reading provides you with resources and instruction to address all three of these pillars of literacy. This is a comprehensive ELA program. So we'll start with what we're doing with our students during that whole group instruction. And you notice this little yellow bar here. As you're looking through your teacher's guide, you'll see that label. Those are those presentations already built. So anytime you see this little class craft label, that means there's a presentation built to support this lesson ready to go for you. All right, so your teacher's guides they have some sticky note tabs on the top. So if you would please open up to the blue sticky tab, that will take you to, and you might have to turn one more page, that will take you to a week at a glance planner that looks similar to my screen here. So I'm a teacher, I'm planning for my first week of instruction here. I can see all of my options for every pillar of literacy for the 5-day week. We're going to break these down starting with foundational skills and word study. Foundational skills is the label for K through 3. Kindergarten, first, and second grade. Do I have kindergarten, first, and second grade teachers here? All right, good. I taught first grade for 21 years, so people. So, of course, foundational skills are very important at the primary grade levels. So therefore, they are addressed every single day. And it's a big part of the literacy block. Now, in third grade, if you're looking at a third grade teacher's guide, you're going to notice that those foundational skills taper to 3 days a week. And that is supported by reading science. Now, if we think about what we're doing during those foundational skills lessons, and by the way, your foundational skills lessons are tabbed purple. So if you want to look at a lesson while I'm showing one up here, you can page walk through a foundational skills lesson. They are color-coded purple there. And you're going to see that it starts off with some review activities. So there's going to be a phonological awareness review, a visual review, an auditory review. Again, these are supported by those already built classroom presentations. This is a very consistent routine. So you're looking at one lesson right now. If you move ahead and look at the second lesson, you're going to see these same steps. So it's very structured, very consistent for you and your students, and comes straight from what is recommended by Letters and Science of Reading. So you've got that, a couple of PA reviews, a visual review, an auditory review, and then we're going to move into our phonics focus skill, where they are learning a new concept, a new skill, like the little girl in the video earlier that was saying shh, shh. They were learning the SH there. But all along the way, you'll notice in the margins, support for students who might be struggling, support for your multilingual learners, ways to correct and redirect at point of use. You'll also see, sometimes I get too far here, so we've got the blending there. Here's an example of some of those slides that are already made for you, so you can lead your students through that blending activity. Handwriting and spelling is going to be connected to that phonics skill, so there's a reciprocal relationship between whatever they're learning to decode, they are also learning to encode. You have practice sheets ready to go to print, very teacher-directed instructions on handwriting, strokes, and again, support for correcting and redirecting throughout, as well as those slides. The irregular words are going to be taught using the Harcourt method at kindergarten through second grade. That comes from Orton Gillingham. And then everyday students are going to have their eyes on text in decodable text. These decodables live in their workbook, so you don't have to print them out every day, ready for you and your students. And then every day there are some recommendations for small group instruction as well, because we know our youngest learners, they need that whole group instruction, but they also might need some additional reteaching in a small group setting. So to do that, you have access to the decodable library books. These are for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. They are full color titles working on a particular phonics skill, little lesson plan activity for teachers to use there, and wrap-up activities where they can talk about the meaning of the story, talk about some vocabulary words within that story, and then practice unfamiliar words here too. All right, so let me shift gears so I have some 4th and 5th grade teachers in the room. Okay, yes. All right, let's give you some attention right now. So in 4th and 5th grade, foundational skills grows up a little bit, and that becomes word study. So if you're looking at your week at a glance planner, you notice that you are teaching word study 3 times a week. Word study is going to focus on morphology in 4th and 5th grade, decoding and spelling still, and fluency. You have a purple tab in your teacher's guide as well, so I encourage you to flip to an actual word study lesson, and you can see how it is very structured as well. It's going to be the same, very consistent every day. It's also similar to what students have been doing in K through 3, where it's going to start off with a review. So they've got a phonics skill review, a blending review, a morpheme review, all of this before they jump into the new skill. And you'll see that support for your multilingual learners and correcting and redirecting. Any questions about foundational skills or word study at the upper elementary grade levels?
I think my question is, so I see we have one teacher guide, but you're saying within the teacher guide, I have to flip to different sections for the lesson? Did I hear correctly? I heard you say the purple is for the foundation skills, and then the red would be for...
No, that's just the band on the side of the page. So if you go to lesson 1, it's going to have everything you're doing in lesson 1. I'm just talking about foundational skills first.
there a fast place to see time breakdown? Like how long for 4th and 5th grade would this?
Yeah, that would be in that implementation guide.
Okay.
So depending on how long your literacy block is, if it's 90 minutes, 120, 150 minutes, it differs on the recommendations on how much time you spend in word study or in reading and vocabulary or writing and grammar.
It shows it right here at the beginning of the teacher guide.
Yeah, there is a visual here, a pacing guidance as well. Yeah.
You have a 90-minute block, here's how long you spend on each particular component, 120 or 100.
And I did have a question from online audience as well. Someone asked, will the kids be able to use this at home as well?
Are they talking about the classroom presentations? Or?
Probably most likely the digital platform.
Oh, yeah, yes, they have their own login, so yes, teachers could assign things through Ed, and then students can access that through their own login, their own credentials.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's shift gears now and talk about building knowledge along with reading and vocabulary. Because those two things go hand in hand together. The students are going to be building knowledge from what they're reading, the stories they are reading. So with Into Reading, students are going to build knowledge within and across the grade level. The program is organized into modules, think like a unit, but they're called modules. And these modules are going to be connected to grade level appropriate social studies and science topics. So they are going to feel familiar to you because it's like, okay, I teach 2nd grade and yeah, we do plants or we do, yeah. So they are going to be grade level appropriate science and social studies topics and domains that build on from K through 5. And all of this knowledge is drawn from authentic trade book literature. I know we're in a high school library, but how appropriate that we are in a library, because what you have even in your bags right now, these are trade books. These are written by real authors. No one at HMH sat in a cubicle and thought, I'm going to write a story that really drives home theme. These are all engaging titles that many of them might be familiar to you and others might be new that you would like to explore. So these titles, all of this literature is organized into text sets. You have another tab in your teacher's guide, and I believe it is, I've tried to commit this to memory, it is orange. It looks like it is orange. So flip to that orange tab, please, and you will see whatever module you are looking at right now, the text sets that are going to be used during that 3 to 4 week long module. If you're a kindergarten, yours is going to be 4 weeks long. So at the beginning of a module, we're going to kick things off. We're going to build excitement. We have some videos, drive some background discussion, and get kids engaged and excited about the text and the topic. Then we're going to spend 3 to 4 weeks exploring this great literature and building our knowledge, making connections, and then at the end, we will have an opportunity for students to demonstrate their knowledge with a performance task or other project-based learning opportunities. And again, those connect to science and social studies topics. So if you don't have enough time to teach science and social studies, which often happens, unfortunately, you can be sure that you are addressing your grade level topics with Into Reading. So with reading and vocabulary, this is where we are using all of that great literature. We're teaching critical and academic vocabulary from this literature with the use of vocabulary cards that have a visual on the front and a routine with activities on the back, getting the kids talking about the words, writing about the words, acting them out, and then support for our multilingual learners all along the way. Kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade, your students will be experiencing literature through big books, through read-aloud trade books that you will have in front of your students. They can touch them. These are all available digitally as well. So if you need to assign them to a student at home, to his question, they have full audio with a human voice to support as well. To make things easier on you all, how many of you have ever tried to hold up a big book and a spiral-bound teacher's guide at the same time? Wrestle with both of those, yes. Yeah, it's kind of okay. So to make things easier, that spiral-bound teacher's guide can stay on your desk, and you can just focus on holding that big book or focus on holding that read aloud trade book, and then you have all of your instruction on a book stick, a little sticky note that goes right along with that trade book or that big book. It sounds like a little thing, it's actually kind of a big thing if you've been in the primary world. Kindergarten students, they're hearing all this great literature. We want them to interact with it. So they have a My Book. So do I have a kindergarten teacher in here? Great. So if you reach into your bag, you probably have an example of a kindergarten My Book. This is a full color response journal where students are going to be drawing and writing in response to those big books and those read aloud trade books and working on their vocabulary and their reading skills. Just interacting with that literature at a higher level. First grade on up, I encourage you now to reach into your bag and pull out the Student My Book. Pull out the Student My Book. Grab that and let's have a volunteer. What do you notice? What do you notice about that Student My Book? Just flip through it real quick. What do you see? It's consumable, color, space for them to write, yeah, margins, boxes for them to respond. This book is a yes.
It's color coded according to what is up here. So if it's a foundational skill, it's going to be purple. If it's grammar, what is it, green, or writing green.
Yep, teachers, we love some color coding, don't we? Yeah. Okay, so this is a consumable work text that truly belongs to the students, and these great books that we're surrounded by, well, maybe not these, but they live in this Student My Book. So it truly belongs to them because we want them marking it up. We want them interacting with this text at a high level. We want them to feel like it really belongs to them. This is a book of books. And when they're done with this, they take it home to their own families to share. So all of this great literature is going out into your community. It is their own little library. And then it is replaced every year for you. So you get a brand new set. You do not need to hoard a couple of them back. That's the way we work. You'll get a brand new set the next year. Now remember those book sticks that make life easier when you're using a big book or a read aloud trade book? You have a companion piece to support the Student My Book to make your life easier as well. So if you reach into your swag bag, you should have a hardback version that looks exactly like, oh yeah, hold that up. There we go. It looks exactly like the Student My Book. Now, how many of you have ever taught from a class set of trade books? Okay, so all of your kids have the trade book in their hand, the copy. You have the same book, don't you? Except in your book, you have, oh, what?
Just checks and color codes and points and.
That's right. Yes, thank you. That's exactly the concept behind this Teaching Pal. So open up that Teaching Pal. This is a real fan favorite. This is a crowd pleaser. Teachers love this Teaching Pal. So in the Teaching Pal, you have in-the-moment supports that are color-coded sticky notes, just like what you'd probably do if you pulled a trade book to teach from. And each one of these sticky notes it's coded with like the DOK level. It serves a certain purpose. Remember that spiral-bound teacher's guide that's in front of some of you right now? That thing still can stay on your desk. It's going to tell you, today follow the blue sticky notes. Today follow the purple sticky notes. Today follow. It's going to tell you exactly what to do, but it's going to be easier when you're in that shared reading experience because you have a book that looks exactly like what the students are in. All right, let's shift gears now to that third pillar of literacy, that third thing we're doing during whole group instruction, and that is writing and grammar. These lessons are color-coded green. You have a question?
Yes, I had another question in the chat. It says, good evening, do we have the HMH teaching guide in the digital platform too?
Yes, you do. And that, if they access the teacher's guide from Ed, all of their resources are going to be hyperlinked. So yes.
Thank you.
All right, writing and grammar. These lessons occur daily, kindergarten through 5th grade. Now, kindergarten is going to start out with emergent writing. So students will be labeling pictures and learning how to write a sentence for the first 4 modules. That's about half the year. Then they will be introduced to the writing process. Starting in that continues on up through 1st grade through 5th grade. So about halfway through kindergarten, they're introduced to the writing process. And in 1st grade on up, they are focusing on one type of writing and taking that type of writing over 15 lessons through the entire process. Now, writing can be a challenging thing to teach, right? It's just not quite as concrete as other things that we're doing during the day. Even our high kids sometimes struggle with writing. So what we've done here is we give you the time. I said 15 lessons to take students all the way through the writing process. We give you the scaffolding to support each step of that writing process, and we give you the tools to teach each stage of this writing process. One of the tools is, guess what? An authentic piece of literature to serve as the focal text. So you'll have a real book that serves as the model. We provide it for you. We don't just say, here's a good title, I hope you can find it. It is provided for you. So we're going to introduce students to that focal text, spend a couple of lessons with that focal text before we move into pre-writing. That's the first step of the writing process, where you have things like anchor charts. You have anchor charts to support reading as well as writing. Students are going to be setting goals. They'll have access to the rubric so they know what it's going to take to be successful. They have models so they can see what is this supposed to look like. And there you can see we're getting into revising now, editing. All along the way, if you're looking at green lessons, you will see a connected grammar lesson as well. So every day, taking students through a stage of the writing process with a connected grammar mini lesson. In 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, you have the opportunity to get your kids onto an online writing platform. This lives on the Ed platform, so it's not a separate thing. It's right there in the same place. But if you're looking to expose your students to some online writing and get access to some different tools, that starts in 3rd grade. Okay, so that's we're doing a lot during whole group, and then of course our favorite thing to do is test our students, right? Yes. No, you don't really like to do that. But we have to do it, right? We have to gather information. No one at HMH is going to tell you what test you have to give. However, we do give you a wealth of, plethora of assessments, so you can decide what's important, what's the information I'm trying to communicate to my families. So you have, of course, module level assessments that assess all those pillars of literacy that we just talked about, and then many different formative types of assessments as well. These can be given digitally, they can be given in print, they can be edited, either way, customized. And then you can use the data to create groups, to figure out recommended resources on how to address the needs of groups as well. Remember those classroom presentations I talked about? So at the end of those, starting in 3rd grade, it always ends with a little quick check. Do any of you do exit tickets or anything like that? Okay, and then you have to find time to grade those exit tickets. So if you do an exit ticket with these presentations, guess who's grading it? The platform. And it's giving you that data right away. You don't have to, quickly during your lunch period go through all of those exit tickets. It's ready to go for you, going to give you different reports like an assessment report or a standards-based report. Again, you decide how you want that information aggregated. And you're giving these assessments because you might be making some decisions for differentiation. So you do have a few things in your bag to support differentiation. Again, this is a comprehensive ELA program, so we're providing you whole group as well as small group. So you're going to see some things to support the different levels of learners in small group rotations. All of these are lined out at the beginning of every week, recommendations for differentiation in practice as well as for students. What are they supposed to be doing while you're working with groups? I mentioned those decodable readers for foundational skills. One thing I want to point out here before we wrap up, and some of you are already flipping through them, are the tabletop mini lessons. Will you hold yours up, please? So the tabletop mini lessons are little tent easels that sit on your table. They have a teacher or a student-facing anchor chart on the front and a teacher-facing lesson plan on the back. Guys, you can use this tomorrow if you want to. It is not tied to a specific text or title. So if you're working on a certain skill, use that anchor chart and use that lesson plan on the back with any story you want. It's really it's a very flexible resource. Same concept for the multilingual learners, tabletop mini lesson, visual on the front, lesson plan on the back. Read and Respond Journal is a piece for your Tier 2 students, written about a year below grade level, focusing on vocabulary and reading. And then the Foundational Skills and Word Study Studio, over 250 lessons, intensive lessons for the foundational areas of reading. All right, so we are done, kind of, almost. I'm going to go past that and get to the end. Never mind there. All right. We did almost finish up. All right, so I'm going to hand this over to you, and thank you so much.
All right, we thank HMH for the presentation on tonight. Whatever. That's okay. Since that we really are cut short for time, of course, after you go through the materials and you have questions as you are looking at the materials a little closely, all you have to do is send me an email. If I don't know the answer, I will definitely reach out to the HMH team to get your questions answered, being that we are pressed for time tonight. So if you will, please give HMH, Kristen, Shelby, Stephanie a round of applause for their presentation. All right, so the last presentation will be coming up here momentarily, and they will take us out for the night. We will have a few minutes, so we are supposed to go to 8 o'clock tonight. It's set up to where we do have a final question and answer at the end for any one of the products. So bear with us as we switch over. All right, so we're ready for our last presentation tonight. Thank you all for hanging in here with us. Our last presentation tonight is from Benchmark Education, and we have Lisa Gonzalez here, and we have Carla Neiman for Benchmark Advance. So let's tune in and hear what Benchmark Education has for us.
And now that I did all that, looking for my water bottle, I put my clicker down somewhere. And I know I had it in my hand 2 seconds ago. Did you guys, okay, teacher moment here. Ever put your keys down and go, where are my keys? Yeah, that's, I used to give my kids awards if they found whatever it was I was looking for. I can't have it. You know what, I'd like to take you up on that. Thank you. I know it's around here somewhere, but I'd rather find it later and get us started.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I feel like I'm in a what is it, Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now?
I'm sorry, I forgot one.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Our dinner tonight was also provided by Benchmark.
Thank you. Thank Carla.
All right.
All righty. Well, I'm going to try to get a little closer to you so that I can see you. Obviously, here we're here to talk about. It looks like I need to turn this on. Come on, I got you hooked up.
Uh-oh.
It doesn't want to cooperate with me, and I've got it plugged in. We're going to try another port and just see.
There we go.
Now.
There we go.
All right, we're in business. Yoo-hoo. All right. Well, good evening. I know I am standing between you and the rest of your evening. So I'm really going to try to keep you informed about what you're going to learn about with Benchmark Advance. It is our newest copyright. It's a 2026 copyright of this program. This is a content-based literacy program, and it's got a structured literacy approach. I know you have been using Benchmark workshops, so there's a lot of things about Benchmark that you already know. So as we go along, there are going to be some places, quite a few actually, where you're going to see this blue band around the slide, and if it's also, the title is in blue, what that means is that this is an element of Benchmark Advance that is new or that is different from what you're used to with Benchmark Workshop, all right? So we're going to really walk through and see what is, not only what is different, but also what makes Benchmark Advance so powerful. That's going to start with the fact that we have an all-read rating in all 3 gateways and end reports. And we actually have a perfect science and reading score in this program as well. The other thing to know is that this is a program that has been proven to be effective. In these national studies that we've compiled, what you're going to find is that when we look at the student data, the blue bars indicate districts that are using Advance, the purple are districts that are using some other program, where we've compared districts that are similar in different attributes. And as you take a look, you see whether the district is very small all the way to very large. What we see on average is that students using Advance make 2.5 times the growth of students using other programs. And that is the truth or the case whether we're looking at all students, English learners, or those that are economically disadvantaged. So we're very proud of that data that has come out. It's also completely aligned to the Missouri standards, priority standards, and it is DESE approved as well. Within Benchmark Advance, we have a brand new element called, or brand new, I don't want to say, widget, but it's, one of our aspects of the program, which is our new Plan and Teach. They're aligned to the Missouri standards. So when I put my Plan and Teach together, not only will it map all of my instruction out for the year, but for each individual lesson, I see the Missouri standard. I can also run a standards report, and I can see not only the standards that I'm teaching across any given period of time, but also how many times I'm teaching that standard. So I can truly map out my standard coverage for my instruction. And here's another big difference. You're used to workshop with having 3 different teachers' resource systems. One for reading, one for writing, one for foundational skills. In advance, it is comprehensive. Everything is in one teacher's resource system. Yes, I saw that. Thank God, right? Thank the Lord. Well, as we take a look though at the planner for each week, you see that they're all color-coded. So it's mapping out not only all my lessons for the week, but it's mapping it out also by type. So all of my foundational skills are pink, all of my reading lessons are that tan color, all of my writing lessons are blue. So it's mapped them out for me, so I am not trying to navigate and do all the pacing myself between 3 different teachers' guides. So truly making life a lot easier for the teacher. It's also a program that's completely built on the sciences of reading research, both the foundational reading skills and the knowledge-based competencies that we know are so important. And you'll see those embedded across our literacy block, starting with read alouds, whole group and small group foundational skill instruction, whole group and small group reading instruction, and whole group writing instruction and independent writing and conferring. And we'll be using our literacy block as a navigation tool today. So as we take a look at our instruction, also know that all of that instruction is supported with pre-built PowerPoint slides that are provided at all grades as well. Again, for easy lesson delivery. Now, we know we're the last party to the dance that was invited, right? We're the last partner that's been asked to dance. We also know that every program is going to be showing how you follow the sciences of reading, right? And how foundational skills are explicit and systematic. We do the same thing. So what ends up happening is all the programs start sounding alike, don't they? And so what we're going to do, or as we go along, I'm going to point out some places with this blue check that shows where Advanced has an advantage over other programs, where we do the same thing, but we do it better. And that's what we call the Advanced Advantage. So you'll see that as we go along. That starts with how we build knowledge. Now you're used to the 10 knowledge building 3-week units within Workshop. We have the same 10 units, the same knowledge building strands. They're still aligned to both your ELA and your science and social studies standards. There's still that 50-50 split of fiction and nonfiction text. That's the same. As well as the fact that we revisit those same skills, I'm sorry, I was going the wrong direction, those same topics across the year. Guys, this is a differentiator. I know you're used to it. What most programs do is they will have that through line and maybe 1 or 2 strands. We're the only program that does that in all 10 topics. So it's truly building knowledge across students' elementary career. We still are going to be teaching our skills and strategies in a spiral across the unit. We're still going to be teaching them in a spiral across the year to ensure that every child has multiple opportunities to master a standard. Because when programs have a standard for a week, guys, I'm just telling you, you might get it for the week, but then 2 months down the line, it's forgotten. So this is also allowing students to maintain that learning as well. That's a huge deal, and that's a big differentiator in this program. So now as we look at instruction, we're going to start by starting with the foundational reading skill competencies, or the bottom of the rope. That's going to be reflected in our whole group and small group foundational skill instruction. And this instruction is amazing. It was directed by Dr. Wiley Blevins. I don't know if you were familiar with him. He is a phonics expert. What he did was he ensured that our scope and sequence was not only sequential and systematic, but that it has embedded in it a cumulative review that lasts all year long to ensure that learning does not decay. The other thing he's added is an accelerated option for the kindergarten scope and sequence if that's something you're interested in. So that's another change in that program. Again, to really support the needs of all learners. And Wiley himself now provides PD, bite-sized PD around foundational routines to support teacher advocacy. We know teacher turnover is high. We know we have teachers without as much training, or maybe they haven't gone through a teacher preparation program. So all of our teachers need support to ensure that all of our instruction is really making the most of what students need in the classroom for instruction. Now, as we take a look at how we introduce a target skill, we do that through phonological awareness. I want to show you what's changed. What we have now, whoa. I'm not sure what happened there. What we have now is very explicit instruction for the teacher to provide, brand new articulation videos, sound wall cards that provide additional instruction explicitly around phonological awareness. But during instruction, if it's apparent that I've got some students who have additional needs around phonological awareness development, as a teacher, I'm directed to our intensive phonological awareness routines and activities, which have been developed by Dr. Blevins as well. These are available for teachers at all grades so that we can support the needs of any student at any grade who may have phonological awareness development needs. And of course, that's going to, again, is that major support for all of our students. We now make our sound spelling correspondences, but look at what we've changed. We're now adding spelling rules and phonics generalizations that are explicit so that students can transfer that to the spelling of other words in other patterns. We still are going to be blending and building words like we're used to with explicit teacher models and with the immediate application and practice with that built-in spiral review and challenge opportunities to scaffold and to extend learning for our students. But now we're going to be teaching high-frequency words with an orthographic mapping routine. This will be used for both regularly spelled high-frequency words as well as irregularly spelled high-frequency words. And if you take a closer look at the irregularly spelled words, we've identified those irregular spellings in red. So that's the part that students need to know by heart. As a teacher, I'm given the exact language to use to be able to teach those irregular spellings, and that is further supported when I go to our new high-frequency word cards that has the language for every irregular spelling for me to ensure that my instruction is on point. As we now move to using the tools that we have for our instruction, we've got these brand new magnetic letter tiles and boards. Let me show you what these do. These allow our students to be able to tap words, to map words, and to write them, because not only does every letter and letter combination have its own magnetic tile, but these are write-on, wipe-off. So they're very interactive for students. And of course, we have our interactive multisensory learning resources that will also support all of our instruction as well. Now we go to handwriting, and handwriting is going to be used to scaffold and reinforce letter sound correspondences with brand new handwriting resources K through 5 for both handwriting or manuscript as well as cursive. Now we get to a part that you're familiar with again. And I've put this in blue for a reason. I know you're familiar with the My Reading and Writing for grades K and 1, and they look very, very similar. But what has changed is the text inside are now more decodable. And so they still are going to build knowledge in the 10-unit topics as well as apply foundational skills in those texts that are decodable while they're building knowledge and vocabulary, which makes them a very unique feature in our program. Because you know how they work, I'm not going to go through that, but just know that they are more decodable. Our decodable readers are also more decodable. Here's what's unique about them though. In workshop, you have this one black book. Now, up to 3 titles per week are provided in a small group format in 6 copies so that I can use them for small group instruction. And they're also all available as take-home decodables that are already copied, cut, folded, and stapled and shrink wrapped by title in a class set. So as a kinder or first grade teacher, all I have to do is pop those open, pass them out to every student in the class to be able to annotate and to take home for additional practice. And in first grade, that's up to 72 titles across the year. So you have a plethora of foundational skill instruction or decodable readers. I'm sorry that my book came back up there for students to practice foundational skills. Kindergarten, yours have changed as well. The beginning of the year starts with pre-decodables. So no more, no more of the closed sentences with the picture, the rebuses. Now we have the pre-decodables where the purpose is to teach concepts about print and to introduce the high-frequency words, using those first decodables at the beginning of the year of kindergarten to teach our students how texts work. Once we get to grade 3, we're still going to shift to word study. Here's what's the same. We're still going to start the year teaching our students how to decode multisyllabic words. We're then still going to move to morphology, where we're teaching prefixes and suffixes, the Greek and Latin root words, and the 6-syllable types, teaching our students how words work. We still have a full week of whole group and small group instruction provided. But now in Benchmark Advanced, what we have is starting that word study by teaching it in the context of a familiar reading text. So we introduce it there first before we move to that explicit instruction where we focus on teaching spelling patterns. We're still going to apply that in decodable passages, but now we have 3 decodable passages per week on the unit topic that also build knowledge and vocabulary. And all 3 of those passages are still housed inside the My Reading and Writing, My Word Study that comes in print for our students. And of course, because we know that all of our students may have some needs, or I'm just speaking from experience, I always had students in my own class who after that whole group lesson needed additional scaffolding. For both intermediate and primary grades, we still have those daily small group options to provide support for students. So that's foundational skills. As we move on to our knowledge-based competencies, know that we are going to be building knowledge in unit topic text sets for read-alouds, for whole group reading, and for small group reading and independent reading. So as we start with read-alouds, I want you to see what we've done here. What we have is a whole library of diverse, authentic, full-length trade books. These are beautiful titles that reflect the diversity of our classrooms. And these also are on the 10-unit topics. So we use this to build knowledge and vocabulary with our students. We also provide a read-aloud handbook. It also contains authentic literature that is on the 10-unit topics. And then to support teachers in delivering a solid read-aloud, we've got professional development built right into the program with our professional development guide around read-alouds. As we move to our reading lessons, what you're going to find is we're going to scaffold those reading lessons in that grade level complex text with suggested language objectives. These are written to scaffold the different language proficiency levels that students may have. Now in K1, a lot of these titles look familiar, and that's because they are, but those whole group, authentic whole group texts are going to be used to teach comprehension skills and strategies. The same thing will happen in grades K through 2, but those texts are in the student book, as you're familiar with from Benchmark Workshop, where we identify the authentic literature with the author's picture and bio. We also contain in this book what we call authentic voice texts. What an authentic voice text is texts that have been written by and illustrated by diverse authors and illustrators who are telling their story in their own voice. So that's allowing every child in our classroom to not only see themselves reflected in the text they read, but also the opportunity to learn about others. And those are housed inside not a book called Mentor Text, but a book called The Text for Close Reading. It works the same way. There's 10 for each of the 10-unit topics, and they are write-in so that students have that ownership of learning, which we know is so unique. And of course, this is where students truly are not only showing their voice, but their thinking as well. Inside, this is a difference, inside this Text for Close Reading is something we call a knowledge blueprint. And this knowledge blueprint, if it looks something like a graphic organizer, that's because it is. What our students are going to do with this knowledge blueprint is they're going to use it throughout the unit to collect the knowledge that they've been building across those reading selections. So it truly becomes a record of their learning. And in K1, you'll be doing the same thing, but it will be done collaboratively in a whole group. So we're going to now provide access to that grade level complex text by explicitly teaching vocabulary. This is now explicitly taught. So we're going to start with what we call concept vocabulary or build knowledge vocabulary. It's the vocabulary that students are going to use all unit long to talk about the reading selections. We'll then explicitly teach academic and domain-specific vocabulary using the Isabel Beck Define, Example, Ask routine that will be applied in that core text. And it will all be scaffolded with our multilingual glossary that provides all the program vocabulary in 10 world languages. As we go now to our reading instruction, you're going to see quite a few changes here as well. That starts with how we scaffold the first read of the text. The first thing we do is we have an if-then chart that shows ways that as a teacher I can scaffold the learning needs of my learners based on their reading ability to access that grade level complex text. That is also supported with the ebooks that of course that you are familiar with that has that audio support. The lessons are structured a little bit differently. We start with the model, which is the I do, the guided practice, which is the we do. Those probably sound familiar, but we end the lesson with an apply understanding, which is a you do lesson structure with this gradual release. So as we take a look at the model, as a teacher, not only do I see, the text-dependent question I'm going to model, I see the language that I'm going to use to model that skill or strategy. And then as I move to guided practice, I'm going to see that parallel question that students will answer. I'm also going to see my possible student response that I might be looking for, as well as my integrated English language development, where I'm going to be provided with some light, some moderate, and some substantial scaffolds to support that lesson. You're familiar with that. But what is different is how we end the lesson. Instead of students coming back and just sharing and reflecting in advance, we actually have a grade level complex task that is an assessment of that lesson. This grade level task is where students are demonstrating what they've learned in writing from that lesson. However, if I have some students in my class who may need some additional scaffolding, I have a key access point for every lesson that provides an accommodation of that grade level task for students who may be neurodiverse. So really looking at supporting all of our learners in that classroom. If I have students who have needs beyond that core instruction, what Advance has are intervention and reteaching resources that are included with the program. What they do is provide opportunities for me to reteach all of those unit skills or strategies by you telling me which book to use, which lesson to use, and even a quick check to progress monitor student learning. So I'm provided that Tier 2 MTSS support right within my core instruction. For a small group, you're going to find some similarities here. One is for K1 and 2. We have the codable library that is really trade book quality decodables that has the instruction as well to reinforce the phonics skill for that week, as well as our 6-packs for small group instruction. For 2 through 5, we still have our vocabulary and knowledge building library that have titles that are written by published trade book authors. But now the instruction is focused on one of our comprehension skills or strategies. So these can be used to reinforce whole group instruction. So that's a change. We still have our reader's theater, and of course it's still going to provide that fluency instruction and practice, the interactive ebooks that can be accessed from school or home, as well as Benchmark Universe, which was where all of our materials are located. None of that has changed. As we move to writing, this is one of our biggest changes, because not only are our reading and writing completely integrated, which you're already used to, but our reading texts are used as writing mentor texts, which is also what you're used to. But the difference is this. All of our writing units are 3 weeks long, just like the reading units. So you know how in workshop you had longer writing units, they were always kind of staggered, they didn't necessarily line up. Now they're completely aligned across the whole year in all grades. What we do in K1 is this. We know that writing is developmental. And so because of that, we start the year by teaching our kindergartners 5-3 writing strokes so that they can draw a picture. Why do I want them to draw a picture? So that they can respond to a text that we've read together in reading. They can respond to that text in writing, but that writing is going to be in the form of a picture. And then we're going to build on that to teaching our students to label that picture. And then we'll be teaching them to share that message in the form of a sentence. So what they're learning through this progression is that writing has meaning, and that anything that I write, I'm able to share with someone else. That lays the foundation to explicitly teach the writing process for the rest of the year in K1. And we will do that in all 3 text types, informational, narrative, as well as opinion. Once we get to second grade, things change. We're now going to explicitly teach two forms of process writing. One is text-based process writing, or writing to a text-based prompt. The other is self-selected writing, or where students get choice of what they'd like to write about. We're going to be teaching all three text types in both forms, along and using graphic organizers that are genre specific that are going to support student composition. This is what it looks like. In those text-based writing units, week 1 is focused on a teacher modeling and writing a particular essay in a particular text type. This one happens to be explanatory. As a teacher, I'm given an exemplar response to use students how to build or how to construct an essay in that text type. We're using 2 sources as my source text. One happens to be my reading text, the other is a video. In weeks 2 and 3, students will write to a parallel prompt using parallel sources, as well as genre-specific graphic organizers, along with student and teacher-facing rubrics and checklists. And by the end of this unit, they will have finished an essay in in this particular text type. That's half of the units across the year. The other half of the year focuses on self-selected, where in week 1, I'm teaching my students how to brainstorm, how to organize their thoughts in a particular genre and text type. In week 2, they'll draft and revise with explicit instruction around writer's craft. And then in week 3, they'll revise, edit, and publish, again, with those genre-specific graphic organizers and checklists. Again, finishing a piece of writing by the end of the unit. We know homeschool connections are important. So not only do we start the year with a letter start the unit with a letter that goes home, we still have our take-homes, which are by reading and writing, and the text for close reading that has that take-home activity calendar embedded. But all new for our students is a new platform that has included in it a parent corner to keep parents connected with student learning. We're going to now assess and progress monitor our students using assessment, starting with a brand new assessment we have called Assess 360. It is not only a universal screener, it also will screen for dyslexia and allow me as a teacher to progress monitor student learning across the year and over time. Our assessments are now comprehensive. In workshop, you were used to just reading. These assess reading, writing, and foundational skills that can be done both paper pencil as well as digitally with our e-assessments. The e-assessments have an advantage in that they are graded for you, and they will show student progress toward your standards in real time and over time. And a brand new feature for our writing assessments is an AI grading assistant. Not only will it grade your writing for you based on the rubric, it will give you the rationale for that score, and it will actually allow you to override that score. So as a teacher, I do have that ultimate decision-making option. We have a grouping report that will group my students for you based on their performance on the standards. And not only can I use that grouping report, but it will also give me recommendations based on those assessment results. So not only will I know who my group is, but what I should be working with them on. So across the literacy block, what you'll see embedded in Benchmark Advance is the sciences of reading research for whole group and small group foundational skill, reading, and writing instruction. In a comprehensive program that includes everything you need, all in one teacher's guide, so the instruction is truly streamlined. I have my one teacher's guide that has all of my instruction in it with all the lessons in the order in the book that I teach them. So all I have to do for one lesson to the next is turn the page. I don't have to jump anywhere. And all I need is my student book and my word study book. And that's it. That's whole group instruction. Truly making it easy for teachers to teach and to navigate in a program that is built on the sciences of reading research. And that is Benchmark Advance. It is truly a high-quality instructional material that is designed to meet the needs of students and to make teaching easier for teachers. We know you're looking for something like that. We would love to continue a partnership with you guys here in, oh my goodness.
Riverview Gardens.
Thank you, Riverview Gardens. I was like, I know it's River, and I'm going to, oh no, I'm not going to say the name right. So we would truly love to continue to partner with you. Thank you.
And I do have a question online. I'm not sure, it may be for staff, it may be for Benchmark. Ooh, a little loud. It says, are lesson plans still an expectation / factor while implementing the curriculum?
Yes.
That must be a district question.
Okay, so that is Benchmark Advanced. And so that wraps up everything tonight. If we can again, show how much we appreciate Benchmark on tonight. Again for the presentation, and also for the dinner tonight. The actual hardback or the actual books, you kind of have like pamphlets in the folder, but the actual sample books are in the kits on the back. So please feel free to take a look at those, and please feel free to take any of the samples with you on tonight. Any questions for the CNI team? Any questions for our superintendent? Deadline for the survey.
What I would suggest is that we give you, we can bring all the resources down to our office, so if people want to come see them on a rotating basis, that gives you more time to have hands-on time with the materials before you vote. So I would say we probably close by next Friday, so a week. Yes.
District-wide.
Yes. So that you all should have access to the digital resources already, as well as the link to the voting Google form.
Any other questions tonight? For even Ishmael can answer some questions.
So I just want to make sure that.
I just want to make sure you all know my favorite F word, and we are not buying any curriculum that is not going to be foundationally based. We have a foundational issue in our district that we need to correct, and we need to be real about what we need to do and make sure that we are purchasing resources that's going to make the difference that we need in our district. That is to you and everyone else who presented tonight.
All right.
Another question.
So my question.
Hold on.
So my question is, can we get on the link still and like do mock lessons off of all three?
Absolutely.
I was going to ask, I was looking for a breakdown of how long to spend on each of the components, and I found something, but it showed for what if you had 120 minutes. So I was just wondering if you have one that shows a breakdown if you have 90 minutes.
Yes, in fact,
inside the teacher's resource system, in the very beginning, there is a 90-minute and a 120-minute and 150-minute pacing guide. Let me see if I can find this really quickly and tell you what page it's on, so that when you're looking, it's on page Roman numeral 10. And the top is the 90-minute, the middle is the 120. And what I've had teachers ask me is, so what is it that's left out with the 90-minute? Realizing that each of the lessons, your reading lessons are roughly 15 to 20 minutes. For K&1, your foundational skill lessons are 30 minutes, maybe 35, and then your writing is 15 to 20. So what you have is essentially an hour's worth of whole group instruction. So if you have 90 minutes, then that means you have 30 minutes left for some small group support. If you have 120 minutes, you have an hour for whole group support, for small group support. Correct.
All righty, well, thank you. Thank everyone for coming. Again, feel free to take samples home. I don't know how much pizza left. Let me see. They did pretty good, Paul. Well, feel free to take a slice or two home. Thank you all very much. Thank you for coming.
thank you.
Good night.
And if you happen to see a clicker floating floating around here somewhere?
I will look for it. I'm sure it'll come up somewhere.
Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me borrow that.
No problem.
And I feel like,
Ah,
Yeah.
when I went back to get some samples. I knew it was here. I knew it was here.
So